We're here today talking with Christopher Lockwood about his book and his story, his life. The title of the book is called Why the Cane. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, Scott, thank you. I'm very pleased to talk with you and look forward to discussing the book, Why the Cane?
Yeah, let's start there. Just tell us a little bit, give us some insight into your book.
Well, this is a personal memoir. 34 years ago in 1989, when I was age 42, I was struck by a car and very seriously injured. My left leg was 90% severed. I was flown by helicopter the day of the accident from Maine, where I lived, to Mass General Hospital in Boston. And life for me and my family, my wife and my four children, was literally turned upside down in a split second. Uh, it was a year after many, many surgeries before we knew with any certainty whether or not they would ultimately be able to save my leg where it had some reasonable function, which ended up happening, but it was a real roller coaster. But I have a brace that I wear, and among other things, I have what's known as foot drop. I can push my left foot down, but I can't pull it up. But the book talks about the accident, as I and my family all refer to this defining moment in our lives. And it shares not only the trauma and how we made it through, but most importantly, it shares absolutely life-changing advice and counsel I got from an incredible rehabilitation doctor a year and a half to 2 years after the accident. And I'll explain that. But it literally has changed my life to the point that 34 years later, I am so much more active than I ever thought I would have been. And I want to share this incredible advice with others because it certainly was totally contrary to my thinking and I think a lot of conventional thinking.
So, kind of this accident happened, it's 34 years ago, you're reliving it. Kind of the point of our conversation is it's exciting because your book's now available as an audiobook. It's been released in paperback, hardback. It's coming out as an audiobook, which in this day and age, that's a lot of how people consume books, so they can listen to it, get it through Audible on Amazon. But talk us through the process of, was there a moment in time or more of years long where you thought, I should share my story. I should talk about this life-changing advice I got. What was that like, and how did you come to deciding to write the book?
Thank you. I had thought about it quite a bit, but until I retired, which was in 2015, I really didn't have the time to spend the time composing the book. I had a lot of it in my head. And one of the things I decided when I retired was writing is my artistic outlet. In 2013, I had published a children's book called The Tennis Ball Trees, a very lighthearted story about my chocolate Labrador retriever and her love of tennis balls. And I found going into the classroom or doing author visits in libraries, I just absolutely loved it. And so when I retired, I decided that I would, on a part-time basis, pursue my writing. And through Main Authors Publishing, with whom I worked for both the children's book and also the Why the Cane book, I met after I retired, spent a couple of hours with their writing coach, and it was probably two of the best hours I had spent. She listened about why I wanted to write and a number of the topics and I wanted to write about, and then she gave me feedback, and she said to me, look, you have a lot of really good ideas, but the book with which you need to start is about the accident. She said, if for no one else but for yourself and your family, but it's for other people to share this incredible story and advice. And then she also gave me wonderful tips about the discipline to be able to complete a book. And one of the most important things was a designated space and time. So I rented interior office space in an old mill building, a half an hour from my home, and that became my writing studio. I used my half-hour drive from my home to the studio as my prep time to think, what was I going to focus on that particular day? And it worked out incredibly well. I would tell you, as I started the book, very sadly, for me and my family, my wife, who had stood by me and supported our family after the accident, was unfortunately diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I had to set the book aside for about a year as we worked through that. She lasted 14 months. But after she passed away, I decided that I wanted to finish the book. And my goal, which I fulfilled, was to get it finished and published in the year 2019, which was the 30-year anniversary of the accident. And I am just so thrilled that I was able to do it. It's a short book, and it's less than 100 pages. I think it lends itself really well to be an audiobook. And it's a self-help book, but I think it's intended to help individuals and families who are dealing with all sorts of challenges, because the advice I got, even though it dealt with sort of my physical issues, there was a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, as we're closing out our time today, is there anything else you want to share with us before we end?
Absolutely. I would tell you that the most important advice that I received from this rehab doctor that I needed to hear was that it doesn't matter what other people think. I needed to make decisions that were right for myself. And that allowed me to totally change what I otherwise would have done. I've started using a cane for day in and day out activities years ago based on this advice. But I wanted something else more athletic and competitive, and tennis had been my favorite sport when I was hit by the car at age 42. And he encouraged me to consider getting back to playing tennis as I worked with him. And I said to him, well, what will people think? If he can play tennis, why does he use a cane? And he looked me right in the eyes and said, it doesn't matter what other people think. With that encouragement, I'm back now at age 77 now. I'm playing tennis 2 to 3 times a week. And when I'm on the tennis court, I use a tennis racket, but I go for walks every day with the cane. And I am so incredibly active. And I know, had I not received that advice, there's no way I would have been this active at this 34, 35 years after the accident. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, that's impressive inspiration. Thank you so much for sharing your story again. Christopher Lockwood, Why the Cane. It's available through Amazon, both as paperback, hardback, just released as a Kindle as well. So you can read it that way, or you can download it through Audible and listen on the go. Thanks again, Chris, for joining us and sharing your inspirational story and just sharing about your book with us.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you, you too. Bye.